And what is up, guys? Technical Stinkers here, checking in on our little 3D print operation for today. I'm a normal guy, I own a business, and I got interested in 3D printers, so I'm starting to see if I can find things to sell on the internet to make a little side income, a little passive income. If you're interested in that, then follow along in the process, subscribe to the channel, press it, it's right down there somewhere, and then maybe you can snipe some ideas from me, watch some exhibition prints, just get some entertainment, or learn from the mistakes that I'm inevitably going to make. So let's see what's on the plates. All right, let's check in on my big Pokemon. Okay, that one clearly didn't work out. Let's check on my enormous human skull on the Orangestorm. Oh God. All right, and so clearly some errors, some screw ups, 2 big layer shifts. Now the Pokemon model that I was talking about here earlier, this is kind of a separate thing. I started kind of a side quest sort of thing, printing a large version of that. Major layer shift on the Anycubic Cobra 2 Max, but the real bummer was the oversized, super ultra huge human skull, which is like this one. It's a scan of a real human skull. I just scaled it up really big and put it here on the Giga. It was set to take a few days. Not too much filament, maybe like 7 or 8 kilos, which was a lot of filament. But I thought it'd be an impressive piece to maybe put in the stores or something like that. Now, I noticed I did a filament change, it was running swimmingly, and then a few hours later I came in and it was all screwed up. But when I went to move the gantry back, let's see if I can repeat the what I heard here. I'm almost certain is maybe the cause of this. Let's only do 50 millimeters. So we're gonna do Y. Well, not gonna do it. When the print head came back to home, it made a sound, and it sounded exactly like that. So I thought, okay, great, something's all screwed up, and that's why it layer shifted. It's not doing it now, but we'll probably try again. But you can see here, the layer shift occurring, and then like progressively stepping back and back and back. So I don't know if the print head got caught up on something, and that's what caused it to keep pushing. But yeah, just total and complete spaghetti. Let's take this in the office under better lighting and examine it to see, because like when prints fail, I like to, sort of extract as much data as I can for the next print, in case there's something like, I want to improve upon, increase the amount of wall loops, the infill. Obviously this has like very little infill. I just did like 5% lightning on these enormous prints. Even like a 0.5% one way or the other on something like infill is like extra kilos of filament. So like, an extra 10, 20, 30, $50 or something like that. So I want to extract as much data as I can before I reattempt this. And we'll take our big Pokemon as well. Something tells me we're going to want to increase the wall loops on this one. Man, this one's really on there. All right, so first up, our first failure was this Psyduck. Psyduck is a Pokemon. He happens to be my favorite Pokemon. And so I did this test model here. This is just real thin, rough, like real thin wall loops. I got this model from Press Print. I subscribed to their Patreon. I did this for the Charmander, the giant Charmander I was gonna print like months back, but ultimately kind of scrapped the idea because I couldn't get the settings right. It had the long tail, and printing it on the Giga, it's just so much material, it started to warp up and bend up and pull from the supports, which kind of ruined the rest of the model, so I just killed it. But I like their models because they print everything in separate pieces. So you can print like, a bunch of these and then just glue them all together, and you get this nice color. So you don't have to paint it. Because even if you do a really good job painting 3D prints, you can still tell they're painted. Like this is like, very clearly defined, demarcated colors on these models. He makes them where they fit together easily and they don't really need much support. So I really like his models, but they're all licensed. It's all Power World, Pokemon, Mario, Nintendo type stuff. But as I was, if you saw my previous episode, throwing my large prints away, I was talking to some people that run my retail stores, and they're like, yeah, if you put a Charmander in here or a Nintendo based thing, or some of these products that you can't really sell online, people would probably snap it up. And so obviously I don't recommend doing that to anybody, anybody going and doing that. But selling it in a store is not exactly like selling it online. And I'll just say it's decoration, we'll see. So he called for some additional of these prints, and I'm like, you know what, that's perfect. I have the Press Print subscription. So I'm doing a test model here This one came out great, you know, relatively speaking, just a few things to dial in. So I wanted to see how big I could get it on my Cobra. Put this one on the Cobra 2 Max, haven't calibrated it in a while, it probably needs it, and that's probably the reason why it shifted. This is very, very thin. I was trying to see how little I could get away with because this is just the body section. This is at 600%. I believe this one's at 300. So this is about as big as I can get it on the Cobra. You can see here, it would be considerably larger. That much filament, like I was talking about earlier, just, you know, 1% either way. You're talking about a significant amount of cost, and, you know, if I put this in a store, I can't really expect anyone to pay more than, like, say, $20 for a big Psyduck or something like that. Maybe if it's a really nice example, but I wanted to see what I could get away with. Now, once the model is complete, I feel like even with thin wall loops, it'll give it extra rigidity once it's all complete. You know, just kind of feeling that on the tail here. It's decently solid. So I had like 5% lightning set for this one. Bottom shell, very low amount of shell layers. So I think it's just a matter of throwing it on there, calibrating the machine, throwing it on there and trying it again. You know, there's nothing terribly complex about this print. There are some overhang issues I want to address, but we're going to keep trying that one. But for now, this goes right into the ocean.
And I don't think that plastic's going to affect a shark.
All right, so here for this giant skull, this is it's like 1,000-something% of size, I believe. On the Orangestorm Giga, 0.7 layer width, or I'm sorry, 0.7 layer height. Similar layer width, 2 wall loops on this, so not particularly, actually 3. With no infill. So I think I had it set for like maybe 5% lightning, but lightning doesn't start to kick until the top. Overall, everything looks pretty complete. What I'm mainly looking for is some of those previous issues I've had on the Giga with, you know, on these steeper overhangs, it kind of showing through and creating some gaps. This skull has a lot of supports and you can't really avoid it, especially on like the teeth, the jawbone, places like that. It's a skull, you know, it's not been optimized to not have supports, and I wanted to keep it that way. I wanted to keep it as a real life human skull and not like one of these low poly, somewhat basically a skull type things. I wanted something that was like, you know, an actual skull, but just really big. So it looks pretty good here. A lot of pulling away. I can kind of tell like on some of these teeth here, kind of like the wall loops just weren't quite adhering or pulling in a little bit. Maybe run it a little bit higher. Let me know if, based on what you've seen there, what you think about that. Support's actually popping off pretty easily. You can kind of see, again, what I'm talking about here. Kind of like these gaps between the layer lines. So I don't know if that's maybe I'm just running a little too quick because I did up the speed. Maybe that's the reason why. I mean, the model feels pretty solid. I mean, I'm giving it the beans here. And I'm certainly on the back as well. So yeah, I think maybe slowing it down, running it, because I'm running it at like 230. Slowing it down a little bit because it's a lot of material to be moving through the nozzle that quickly. And you know, maybe that was the problem. Maybe me upping the speed on this is what ultimately caused some kind of cascade effect. You know, it clipped here and then it got caught on the print head. The print head couldn't move and then it skipped a few teeth on the belt. And that's what caused the, you know, the sort of this cascading, this, you know, it's kind of a compounding effect, this compounding error as it shifts progressively this way. So, you know, maybe that's it. Maybe just a calibration is in order, but, you know, certainly a bummer, but hey, it comes with the territory on these big prints, brand new model, never tried it before. I might try to fit in something else before I tried this one again though. And that's these weight plates, because if you saw the previous video, I do have a couple of these now. Someone sent me an email saying that Macy Makes, a fellow YouTuber, makes these like fake weight sets for kids. And I'm like, of course, here we go again. Like, I arrived at the idea independently, I promise. I'm not marketing these toward, you know, for kids, like fake weights. These are just fake weights for like ego lifting and stuff like that. So I reached out to her and she said, hey, that's fine, I don't care. So that was nice. Thank you again for that, Macy. But I'm going to continue with these. Probably throw these on the Etsy in the next day just to see if I get any kind of traffic on it. I'm going to up the surface, the amount of surface layers just to kind of you know, smooth this out a little bit. But overall, I think these are fine. You know, at a distance, they look fine to me. You know, a discerning eye would be able to tell, but overall, I think these are pretty good to go. I'm going to sell them in a 2-pack, and again, like I was saying, it's like around 1,500 grams. for each one. Someone did come in, No Mercy, I believe, commented like, why don't you just stop the print and change to white filament to print white along the top here. The main reason, a couple reasons why. One, I don't like stopping prints to change filament because if something goes wrong, it'll scrap the print. Number two, these letters aren't the highest layer. It would like, this is higher. I could bring it all down, sure, but it takes virtually no time to just kind of mark it with the white pen. So I'm gonna continue doing that. About 1,500 grams per weight. And so if I kind of just take a 1-for-1, $10 per kilo, you know, it's 15 bucks, 30 bucks cost. Shipping's another probably 15 bucks. So you're looking at like 45 bucks just in costs. And how much do I want to make off printing these? Because these tie up the Giga, I have to do some post-production on them. I'm thinking somewhere in the range of maybe $100 just to try, because it's kind of a gag thing. Maybe people buy it, maybe they don't. If not, then again, we try stuff. And after that too, I wanted to take another stab at the fortune chair. Paul, he's a friend of the channel, Paul Crabb. He sends me models from time to time, or when I'm having a lot of trouble with the model. He'll take a look at it, take a stab at her, at least try to point me in the right direction, which is no easy task because I'm a big dodo. Thank you again, Paul. He had sent me a couple of revisions of this chair, something ideally that I could print without support that just kind of fills in the bottom. So I might try printing this on the Giga as well. Again, the only problem is it takes so much filament to print one of these chairs in life size. And Paul had adjusted it down and said, like, you know, you can only need, you know, like a few % of infill. But I'm just scared of that because if someone sits on it and it doesn't have really robust infill, then they're gonna fall through it. It's gonna collapse. So I thought about maybe printing it hollow, drilling a hole, and then filling this thing up with resin or some kind of hardening agent. Problem with that, though, is those things that harden typically are very brittle. And so if someone sits in it and there's any kind of flex, that's gonna cause cracks throughout the interior stuff. And then you kind of lose, you've lost the point at that point. Plus, if I filled up a life-size version of this with resin, one, that's pretty costly. It'd be cheaper than filament, but it would be very heavy. The chair would end up weighing like probably 100 pounds. And I don't know that anyone wants to move around a 100-pound chair. So this is certainly something better, you know, kind of injection molded, or like those hand chairs. I was gonna print one of those. I think they're just injection or vacuum forming those or something like that. But it'd certainly be cool to do this life size nonetheless, if not for just a showpiece or something to put, you know, in the. I'm not gonna put this in my house, but just to exhibit on the channel regardless. So that is what we're working on today in 3D print land. Love to know what you think about all that in the comments below. If you've got any feedback or kind of an eagle eye for print screw-ups, you can maybe tell me what you think's going on here with the big skull and how to dial that in. Don't want to drop, I guess I can drop this. I don't need, that's a slippery bugger. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Be sure to like the video because it's a nice thing to do, and subscribe for more content like this. I'm The Technicals. See you next time.